So you don't feel Ice Cube as a lyricist?
Not at all.
Wait a minute.
You don't think that?
One of the songs I hate the most, if it comes on, I want to shoot the radio. Today was a good day.
One of the biggest songs ever?
Them rappers is horrible, man. On the Charlie, the ball, the pop pop, and they do it for M, let's go. And it the pop pop. Everything ain't gotta be for everybody, yo. That is garbage.
50 Cent just stepped in again, standing up for his big bro Ice Cube after Aries Spears made some dissing remarks about him. And you know things have gone off the rails when someone like 50 Cent, who's actually got his hands full with a million projects, actually pauses to respond to you. We're talking about the guy who made In the Club. If he's taking time to clap back, then yeah, you probably crossed a serious line. And not even for himself, but just to clap back at Aries Spears for disrespecting Ice Cube.
I can't stand Ice Cube.
That's crazy.
Aries Spears didn't just throw a random comment. He went full-on reckless, which made 50 Cent give him a shut-up call. On Big Boy's Neighborhood, Aries didn't hold back and basically said Cube sucked as both a rapper and an actor.
A fan of him lyrically or acting-wise.
Really?
Obviously, Cube wasn't going to let that slide. He fired back, calling Aries irrelevant, unfunny, and basically said he doesn't even register in the black comedy scene. Not top 10, not top anything. Then, because chaos loves company, 50 Cent jumped in. And let's be real, 50 lives for moments like this. If someone's already catching heat, he's definitely adding fuel to the fire. Thing is, the whole thing started off pretty low-key. Just a normal rap conversation, talking rankings and who's who barbershop vibes. But Aries, he flipped the switch the second Ice Cube's name came up. No hesitation, just went off. But that wasn't even the peak. It was more like the opening act. Aries didn't stop after the initial jab. He went on to take aim at Today Was a Good Day, a track that's practically a national treasure for West Coast hip-hop fans. It's one of those songs people consider untouchable, a classic. Even Big Boy's co-host tried to steer the conversation in a lighter direction, maybe hoping to smooth things over with a laugh, but Aries, he wasn't backing down. Instead, he took it even further, launching into an odd impersonation of Ice Cube as a gynecologist. It ended with a line so awkward that everyone at the table just kind of froze. Aries chuckled, but no one else joined in. It was one of those moments where the joke falls completely flat and the silence says it all.
Calvin Chilton did a great joke. He goes, here's Ice Cube as a gynecologist. Hey, Miss Jenkins, I looked at your chart. Now get up on that thigh.
That's racist. I don't know how it's racist, but what you just...
Mocking Cube wasn't enough. He kept piling it on. The vibe in the room shifted fast. The co-host looked uncomfortable. Big Boy tried to move things along, but Aries stayed locked in, refusing to read the room. And just when it seemed like it couldn't get worse, Aries threw in a dig at Tupac. Pac was not the greatest lyricist. He was energy. He was passion. He made you feel him. If that said, tear the club up, you wanted to tear the club up? Dear mama, you wanted to hug your mama? When you think about lyricism, Nas, Jay-Z, Biggie, Jada Kiss, my lyrics, spitters. At this point, it wasn't just Ice Cube he was coming for. It felt like an attack on the entire West Coast legacy. And in a culture that holds respect and history close, that's how you end up shut out and blackballed. What's even wilder, Aries knew exactly what he was doing. At one point, he looked straight into the camera and said, "Watch the comments." Thing is, whether you're from the East, West, or anywhere in between, if you ask people for their top 5 rappers, Tupac's almost always on that list. But Aries made it clear, I don't ever put Pac up there with the top rappers. Unsurprisingly, the internet didn't waste time. The backlash hit instantly. The backlash came fast and it wasn't pretty. People weren't just upset, they were straight up calling Aries out for crossing the line. Fellow comedians like Corey Holcomb didn't hold back, saying Aries went too far by disrespecting someone like Ice Cube. Social media lit up with fans calling his comments out of pocket. And even Ice Cube himself responded, calling Aries a sucker. Then 50 Cent jumped in, making fun of him too, which, let's be honest, only makes things worse. What started off as a random opinion quickly snowballed into a mess, with many saying Aries showed a serious lack of respect for the culture. What Aries didn't see coming was the response from the very legends he took aim at. Normally, in the industry, heavyweights like Ice Cube don't bother replying. They stay quiet, let the noise pass, and keep it moving. But this time, Cube wasn't letting it slide. And when Ice Cube claps back, he does it in classic Cube fashion. Cool, sharp, and cutting. He didn't just defend himself, he threw Aries' entire comedic career into question. In a podcast, Ice Cube didn't let Aries off the hook. He made it clear that he didn't even know who comedian Aries Spears was, and added that whoever he is, he never made Ice Cube laugh. Now that sounds like tit for tat.
He kind of bad about you, man.
Who is this?
Aries Spears.
Oh, that dude?
Yeah. He said nothing
Is
that
he a comedian?
Yeah.
Because he ain't never made me laugh, so I don't know if he a comedian.
Did you hear what he said?
What'd he say?
He said it was nothing about you impresses him. From movies to rapping, nothing at all impresses him. I'm like, wow, like what?
Cube didn't hold back. He dismissed Aries not just as a critic, but as someone who doesn't even register in the comedy world. Ice Cube further said,
Suckers usually don't like me. You know what I'm saying? Like, the people that, they usually don't like me when they coming from that angle. That's cool, though. You know, everybody got their opinion, and they all stink. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's cool. You know, he entitled to his opinion. It's the feeling is mutual. You know, I don't think he on anybody's list of top 10 comedians, you know what I mean, in the black community for sure. I don't even know if he's on the register.
Cube's response wasn't just off the cuff, it was calculated. He's not new to public feuds. From penning No Vaseline, one of the greatest diss tracks ever, to building empires like Friday and the Big Three League, Ice Cube has nothing to prove. He simply reminded everyone of the weight he carries in the culture. But Aries, he wasn't done. Even after getting roasted by legends and dragged across social media, he doubled down this time on Vlad TV and still had more to say. He went on a podcast and straight up doubled down on his opinion about Ice Cube. Apparently, Willie D even called him up, sounding mad, like Aries had disrespected his own mom or something. Willie was trying to tell him, like, man, do you realize what Ice Cube has done for the culture and for hip-hop? Spears said, Aries, man, you don't understand what Ice Cube did for the culture, man, and hip-hop. Why you say, and I go, Willie, it's a subjective opinion. I'm not allowed to not like Ice Cube?
And this nigga, and I love Willie D, that's my man, but this nigga called me like I disrespected his mama. He was like, Aries, man, you don't understand what Ice Cube done did for the culture, man, and hip hop. Why you say? And I go, Willie, it's a subjective opinion. I'm allowed to not like Ice Cube. I know.
But Aries, he wasn't budging. He said it's just his personal opinion. He's allowed not to like Ice Cube. He took it even further and said Ice Cube doesn't move him at all. Not as a rapper, not as an actor. Even when the host brought up F the Police and how iconic it is for what it represents, Aries acknowledged the message but said, I get how it can touch your emotions, but it don't do nothing for me.
Who's done?
Nothing. Ice Cube does nothing for me as a rapper and an actor.
Okay.
Not.
At this point, it wasn't even about Cube anymore, because somewhere, probably watching all of this unfold from his phone in a penthouse suite, was 50 Cent, and Aries had words for him too. Just when everyone thought 50 Cent was going to stay out of the drama, he popped up with a subtle yet unmistakable shot. He didn't mention any names, but the message was loud and clear. He posted a video that screamed passive-aggressive energy, and fans instantly picked up on who it was aimed at. In the clip, 50 throws out a sharp line, be being deluded.
Nah, this shit is hot right here, man. Y'all gotta listen to this one. These bitches be Delulu.
It was a classic 50 move, calm on the surface but cutting underneath. Now you might be wondering why 50 even bothered. The man's schedule is stacked between producing Power, running BMF, handling his liquor brand, touring and closing TV deals. He's got no shortage of bigger things to do. So why take a second to clap back? Well, people often forget there's history here. 50 and Ice Cube have always shown mutual respect. Back when Hollywood wasn't quite sold on 50 as an actor or producer, Cube was one of the first to give him credit, and 50 never forgot that. In interviews, he's always shown Cube love. In a podcast, 50 Cent said, Ice Cube was on when I'm just watching music, all movies, all of it. Yeah, I never really seen Ice Cube in films that weren't his. You know, like he kind of produced the vehicle that he was in, and it wasn't like he was just being an actor in someone else's film. And let's be honest, Aries Spears is exactly the kind of person 50 Cent loves to poke fun at. Loud, controversial, and not exactly backed by recent success. That's 50's favorite kind of target. So when Aries started throwing shade, 50 came in ready. 50 posted a picture on Instagram and captioned it, check my temperature, I'm ice cold. The hood left the left side of my chest froze. Need help with your bills? I'll write you a referral. S. You might even get a love contract. After that post, Aries clearly felt the heat. He responded with an emotional monologue, feeling like he'd been turned into the face of hate. He said, "Apparently I'm the poster child for the world's biggest hater. If you look up the word hate, it's my picture. When did we get to a point where, unless your opinion, and the last time I checked, as human beings we're all allowed to have opinions, at what point does it get to where unless your opinion is favorable about a person or a thing and goes with the flow of everyone else, you're a hater? I don't understand that." And he didn't stop there. Aries was still stung by Ice Cube's remarks. He further said, "Somebody sent me a clip where Ice Cube responded. He was on a radio show and the dude played him the snippet. And the first thing Ice Cube says is, 'Well, most suckers don't like me.' Then he goes on to say, 'I've never heard of this dude.' Then he finishes by saying, 'Well, he's just not funny.' Well, you can't have it both ways. If you don't know who I am, how do you know if I'm funny or not? So you can't have it both ways." That's where things started to fall apart for Aries. Because in the same breath that he's calling out Cube for being dismissive, he also backpedals and offers him praise. But then right after, he flips again, insisting that Cube's body of work just doesn't impress him. In the end, Aries tried to stand his ground, but his own words kept contradicting themselves, respecting Cube as a legend while tearing down everything he's built. That's a hard sell, and it's why the internet wasn't buying it. This wasn't just a hot take, it was a full-on contradiction. And that's exactly why people started dragging Aries Spears, not because he had an opinion, but because he kept switching his stance, and then acted like a victim when the heat came back around. And just like that, this wasn't about rap beef anymore. Things took a darker turn when people started bringing up his past, specifically the 2022 lawsuit involving Tiffany Haddish. Both comedians were sued over a disturbing comedy sketch that many found highly inappropriate. The skit featured a child left in the care of a creepy adult character, played by Aries, with a camera lingering on him in ways that made viewers uncomfortable. And it only got worse from there. Social media went into meltdown mode. Twitter exploded with outrage. The Shade Room posted the clip. And the reaction was instant. Even though the case was eventually settled and the video was pulled from the internet, the damage to Aries' reputation was already done and it stuck. So what did Aries do next? He went right back to Vlad TV again. When asked if he and Tiffany Haddish are still on good terms after that whole situation, Aries was like, "Yeah, we're good." When pressed a little more, he kind of hinted that she was part of the situation too, so there's nothing for her to really hold against him. He said, "I mean, she's participated in the whole thing, so it's not like she could. But I'm just saying, you know how people get, man. We were good, but you know how he is." He kept it vague. Then the host asked if there was ever going to be a time when Aries actually talks about what went down. And Aries just laughed it off like, "Yeah, but you're going to have to pay me for that story." So clearly he's keeping that tea locked up for now. At that point, people started noticing something else. Aries was popping up on Vlad more often than Vlad himself, complaining about being blackballed, ranting about how he should be as big as Kevin Hart. It became a pattern fans couldn't ignore. He wasn't making headlines for his comedy anymore. He was trending for drama, interviews, beefs, and rehashing old scandals. He wasn't getting booked, wasn't building any new material, and wasn't making noise. And behind the scenes, his reputation didn't help. Former colleagues and castmates have gone on record saying Aries was tough to work with, that he brought ego into every room, always trying to outshine everyone else. One person said to Aries, "Your satisfaction will never be satisfied." Why? Because some other MFer will come along that'll take and blow the world up, and you'll want to be that. And there's some other, and have as talented as you are, or possibly more. And then you're going to get upset because, again, you focus on everything that is not you, everything you want, but that's not what's in your present space. Aries Spears isn't without talent. His impressions, on point. His crowd work, quick and clever. But despite being in the game for decades, that big breakout moment, that one that shifts you from comic to legend, like what Chappelle had, never came his way. And over time, that frustration started showing. You could hear it in his tone, see it in his interviews. It wasn't just confidence, it was resentment brewing just under the surface. Now let's talk about why this whole Ice Cube drama blew up in Aries' face. Because coming for Cube isn't like throwing shade at just any rapper. You're going after a full-blown cultural heavyweight. And that's a fight you're not likely to win. Let's run down Cube's resume real quick. No Vaseline is still considered one of the most savage diss tracks in hip-hop history. Friday didn't just make people laugh, it became a cornerstone of black cinema, creating characters we still quote today. And the big three? That's not just basketball league, it's a movement. drawing in retired NBA stars and big-name investors, all thanks to Cube's vision. And did we mention? He was ghostwriting for the greats like Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and MC Ren, while most teens were still figuring out algebra. Now flip over to Aries' claim to fame. Some solid Mad TV skits, a few good stand-up sets, and well, that's about it. Lately, his name's been buzzing more from controversial podcast sound bites than any actual comedy. And going viral for taking jabs at legends, that's not the kind of buzz you want. So when Aries took a swipe at Cube, fans didn't hesitate. They backed Cube without blinking. And then came the cherry on top. When Ice Cube teased possible casting for the long-awaited Final Friday movie, guess who wasn't even mentioned? That's right, Aries Spears. Maybe his name was never even on the table, but the timing, icy cold. Fans took that silence as Cube's polite way of saying, nah, we good. At the end of the day, no matter how good Aries is at mimicking celebrities, those skills aren't translating into career-defining roles. He wanted the spotlight, but instead of shining, he's getting burned. And when two industry icons publicly brush you off and no one speaks up in your defense, that says it all. Ice Cube earned his spot by building something solid, something that actually mattered. Meanwhile, Aries just seems like he's stuck in this cycle of throwing shade to stay relevant. And honestly, in a culture that celebrates creators, leaders, and real innovators, bitterness won't ever come close to legendary status.